Hello, my dear friend. Welcome to VUS Learning English Podcast. My name is Anna, and I am so happy you are here with me today. Today, we have a very important story to share. It is a story about a man named Ethan. It is a story about money, but it is much, much more than that. It is a story about fear, and it is a story about hope. It is a story about what it means to feel truly safe. And it is a story about finding a new way to build a happy life. Thank you so much for choosing to listen today. Your time is a wonderful gift, and I am very grateful you are sharing it with me. If you enjoy our time together today, please think about liking this episode. Or maybe you can subscribe to our channel. When you give it a like, it helps our podcast grow. It helps more English learners just like you find our community. And that is a beautiful and wonderful thing. Before we begin, I am always so curious. Where are you listening from today? Are you in a busy city? Or a quiet town? Or somewhere else in our big, beautiful world? It is amazing to think that we are all here, right now, connected together, listening to the same story. Okay, and let's begin our story together. I have a question for you. What if the one thing you are doing to be safe is actually putting you in danger? What if the way you think about money is creating a future you do not want? We learn that we should save money. We are told this again and again. We hear that every dollar we save is like a shield. A shield protects you. It keeps you safe from the difficult things in the world. But what if that shield is not just a shield? What if that shield is also a cage? A cage that traps you, a cage that stops you from living a full life. This is the story of a man. This man saved every single penny he could. He worked hard. He saved everything. But then, one bad day came, and that one bad day took all his money away. This story taught him a very important lesson. It taught him that true wealth is not about how much money you save. True wealth is about what your money does. What does your money do when you are not looking at it? Is it sleeping? Or is it working for you? Let's explore this together. Section 1. The Vow of Scarcity. Our story begins with a man named Ethan. His name is spelled Ethan. Ethan. Ethan believed in one thing very, very much. He believed in saving money. For him, it was more than an idea. It was like a religion. And his church was a small brown envelope. The envelope was old. It was worn from being touched so many times. His favorite sound was the sound of money, the sound of coins, and the quiet sound of paper bills. He loved putting money safely inside that brown envelope. Ethan lived in a small town. In this town, there was a common problem. The electricity often went out. These are called blackouts. The lights would go off. The television would go off. Everything would stop. This happened often, maybe 2 or 3 times a month. For most people in the town, it was annoying. The food in their refrigerator would get warm and spoil. Their homes would be dark and quiet. It was a headache, a problem. But for Ethan, it was more than a headache. For Ethan, the blackouts were a feeling of constant worry, a low, quiet hum of anxiety in his mind. Ethan had a job. He worked as a security guard. He worked at night. He watched over a very big, very quiet warehouse. His job paid him just enough money. Just enough to pay the rent for their small apartment. Just enough to pay the bills for water and electricity. And if he was very, very, very careful, there was a tiny bit of money left over. And Ethan was more than careful. He was a master of being careful. He was a master of subtraction. Subtraction means taking things away. He was always thinking about what he could take away from his life to save money. Ethan had one big financial goal. Financial means it is about money. A goal is something you want to achieve. His goal was to build a fortress against the darkness. A fortress is a strong, safe building. His fortress was a machine, a gasoline-powered generator. A generator is a machine that makes electricity. For Ethan, this machine was a symbol. It was a symbol of everything he wanted. He wanted stability. He wanted things to be steady and predictable. He wanted control. He wanted to have power over his life. And he wanted the simple, good feeling of keeping the lights on. He had a wife named Mia, and he had a 7-year-old son named Leo. Ethan wanted the lights to stay on for them. He wanted Leo to be able to do his homework at night. He wanted Mia to stop throwing away bad milk after every blackout. The generator had a price. It cost a lot of money. Every decision Ethan made was about that price. He measured his whole life against the cost of the generator. For example, his wife Mia sometimes wanted to buy him a cup of tea. There was a little cafe on the corner of their street. But Ethan would think about the generator. That one cup of tea was 0.25% of the generator's price. So he said no. He would drink water instead. Water is free. He needed new shoes for his job as a security guard. There were strong, safe shoes, but they cost a little more money. Then there were cheap shoes. They were not as strong. The good shoes were 10% of the cost of the generator. So he bought the cheap ones, and he hoped they would not break. His son Leo loved fresh fruit, apples, oranges, bananas. But a small bag of apples was a luxury. A luxury is something nice that you do not need. A bag of apples cost 2% of his goal. So he bought canned peaches instead. Peaches in a can with sweet syrup. They were cheaper. They did not spoil. But the sugar in the syrup was not good for Leo. It made him very energetic. And then very, very tired. This is how Ethan lived. His life became a list of subtractions, taking away small joys one by one. He skipped lunch at work. He did not eat anything all day. His coworkers asked him why. He told them he was on a diet. But that was not the truth. The truth was he would sit alone in his car. He would drink a bottle of water. He could feel the taste of hunger in his mouth. It tasted like metal. But while he was hungry, he was calculating. He was thinking about the money he saved. Another 0.5% toward the generator. His friends from work sometimes asked him to get a beer after a long week. He always said no. A few beers with friends was 3% of his goal. The numbers were his only comfort. The numbers were his only friends. But saving all this money had a much higher cost. A cost that was not about money. Ethan was tired all the time. He was perpetually exhausted. The long nights at the warehouse. The long days of saving every penny. This life carved dark circles under his eyes. Worrying about money is a thief. It steals your sleep. For Ethan, this worry was a ghost that visited him every night. He would lie in bed, but he could not sleep. His mind was like a frantic calculator, always adding, always subtracting. He imagined terrible things, disaster scenarios. What if the car breaks down? How will I pay for it? What if the landlord makes the rent higher? Where will we live? Many people lie awake at night because they worry about money. Ethan was a perfect example of this. He was a living, breathing picture of financial stress. And this stress changed him. He became irritable, easy to anger. He became withdrawn, quiet and distant. His conversations with his wife, Mia, became tense. They were full of unspoken worry. She might say something gentle. Let's go for a free walk in the park on Sunday. It was a lovely idea. It cost nothing. But Ethan's mind was not there. His mind was somewhere else. He was calculating the tiny cost of gasoline to drive to the park. His obsession with saving money was building a wall between him and Mia. Worry about money does not just stay in your bank account. It comes into your home, comes into your relationships. It can make you feel very isolated and very alone. Mia felt this wall. She felt very alone. She looked at her husband. She saw the ghost of the man she married. She remembered a man who used to laugh, a man who used to be fun and full of life. Now that man was gone. In his place was a man who sat at the kitchen table every night. His face was lit by the cold, pale light of his phone's calculator. The stress also had a physical cost. It hurt his body. He had headaches all the time, a dull pain that never went away. His diet was made of cheap processed foods from a can or a box. This food had no energy. It left him feeling sluggish and heavy. Scientists and doctors have studied this for a long time. They know there is a link, a connection between financial strain and physical sickness. Problems with your heart, problems with your stomach. When you are stressed about money, your body is always in fight mode, and this can make you very sick. But Ethan ignored all these signs. He did not listen to his body. He ignored the worried look in Mia's eyes. He ignored the fact that his son, Leo, had stopped asking for things. Leo had stopped asking for a small toy or a sweet treat. He was only 7 years old, but he was already learning the silent language of scarcity. Scarcity means not enough. Ethan ignored the empty feeling in his own stomach. It was a feeling from hunger, but it was also a feeling from a life with no small pleasures. All Ethan could see was his goal. The generator. The money in the brown envelope grew, but it grew very, very slowly. Every dollar he added was a small victory for him. He truly believed he was protecting his family. He did not realize that his fortress was becoming their prison. Section 2. The House of Cards. Life has a strange way of teaching us lessons. Sometimes its sense of humor is very cruel. Life waits. It waits until you have given up everything for one idea of safety. And then it gently reminds you. It reminds you that safety is an illusion. An illusion is something that is not real. For Ethan, this reminder did not come as one big storm. It came as a series of small waves. Each wave was bigger than the one before it. And these waves washed away his beautiful sandcastle of savings. The first wave was very small. It was a cough. His son, Leo, started coughing on a Tuesday. It was a dry sound, a sound that did not stop. It kept everyone in the family awake at night. By Thursday, the cough was worse. It was deep in his little chest. He also had a fever. His skin was hot. He was pale and had no energy. Mia's face was a mask of worry. "We have to take him to the doctor, Ethan," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it was also very firm. Ethan's mind did not think about his sick son first. His mind jumped to the cost. The copay for a doctor's visit? $50. He instantly calculated it. $50. That was 12% of the generator fund. "It's just a cold," he said to Mia. "Let's give him one more day. Maybe he will be better tomorrow." Mia put her hand on Leo's forehead. It was very hot. "He's burning up," she insisted. "We are not taking a chance with our son's health." The argument was very short. Ethan looked into Mia's eyes. He saw fear for her son, and he saw anger at him. He knew this was not a fight he could win. At the doctor's clinic, the doctor said Leo had bronchitis. It was a serious infection in his chest. The doctor prescribed antibiotics, medicine to make him better. The doctor's visit, the medicine. When Ethan put the money for it back in the envelope felt much lighter. A cold, terrible feeling started in Ethan's heart. He had saved money for a future emergency, a big emergency like a blackout. But he did not think about the emergencies of today, the emergencies of normal life. The second wave came 1 week later. It was a letter. The letter was taped to their apartment door. Ethan read the letter. The building had a new owner, and the new owner was increasing the rent. The rent would go up by 15%. Ethan stared at the words on the paper. 15%. This number felt impossible. It was a terrible, crushing number. Why? Because 15% was the exact amount of money he saved each month. Every lunch he skipped. Every time he said no to his friends. Every sad meal of canned peaches. Every difficult calculation on his phone. All of that pain, all of that sacrifice. It was all gone, erased by one single piece of paper. That night, the apartment was silent. It was a heavy, sad silence. "What are we going to do?" Mia finally whispered into the dark. I don't know," Ethan said. His voice was shaking. All his confidence was gone. It was replaced by pure panic, raw fear. "We'll have to cut back more," he said. "We have to save more." Mia's voice became loud. She could not believe what she was hearing. "Cut back?" she said. "Cut back on what, Ethan? On air? You barely eat. You are hungry all the time. Our son is eating peaches from a can because you think apples are a big expense. When does it stop, Ethan? When does this end?" "It ends when we are secure," he shouted back. His voice cracked with emotion. "It ends when we have the generator, when we have a buffer." A buffer is extra money for safety. Mia started to cry. Tears ran down her face. "That envelope is not a buffer, Ethan. It's a black hole," she cried. a black hole that sucks everything into it. It's sucking the life out of you. It's sucking the life out of us. We are not living, Ethan. We are not a family. We are just surviving. And we are barely surviving. The argument did not fix anything. It only pushed them further apart. They were like two people in a small boat in a big storm, but they were on opposite ends of the boat, each one alone in their fear. The financial stress was like a poison gas. It filled every room of their small home. The third wave was the final wave. It was the smallest thing. It was the most normal thing. And because it was so normal, it was the most insulting. It was the bottom of his left work shoe. He was at work, walking through the dark warehouse. Halfway through his shift, he felt something cold and wet on his foot. He looked down. The cheap material of his shoe had split open. There was a big hole. He tried to fix it. He used gray duct tape. But the next day, his supervisor saw the shoe. He called Ethan to his office. "Ethan," the supervisor said, "you know the company rules. You must wear steel-toed boots. The soles must be solid. Those shoes you are wearing are a safety violation. They are dangerous. You must get a new pair of approved boots by tomorrow, or you cannot work on the floor." There was no room for argument. It was a rule. The special approved boots were sold at the company store. They cost $120. That night, Ethan sat at the kitchen table again, the same table where he always did his calculations. He pulled out the old brown envelope. It felt so thin, so light, so empty. He slowly took out all the money inside. The small pile of bills on the table looked pathetic. It looked so sad. It was a monument to his months and months of suffering, and it was a very small monument. He had used the money for the doctor for Leo. He had to use the money for the extra rent this month. And now he had to use the money for the new work boots. He counted what was left. Then he counted it again. He was hoping he had made a mistake. He was hoping for a miracle. There was no miracle. After he bought the new boots for work, he would have less than $20 left. The generator, his dream, his symbol of hope and safety. It was now further away than ever before. All the sacrifices, all the hunger, all the worry, all the lonely nights. It had all been for nothing. One bad week. A week of completely normal, ordinary life problems. Had taken it all away. He stared at the tiny pile of cash on the table. This was not a fortress. This was not a shield. This was just a pile of paper. He had saved every penny, but he had not built anything real. He had only hidden his money. He had hidden himself. And when the storm of life came, his hiding place was no good. It gave him no shelter. He buried his face in his hands. He could feel the rough, empty envelope under his fingers. The feeling of failure was total. Section 3. A flicker of hope. The feeling of despair is very heavy. It feels like a thick, dark blanket that suffocates you. But despair is also hollow. It is empty inside. In the days after he lost his savings, Ethan felt like he was in a fog. He moved through his life, but he was not really there. The warehouse where he worked felt colder. The nights felt longer. At home, the silence was different. It was not an angry silence anymore. It was a sad silence. A silence of defeat. Ethan had not just lost his money, he had lost his purpose. The generator was now just a joke, a laughable, impossible dream. One evening, the thing he always feared happened again. The lights in the apartment flickered, and then they died. Another blackout. But this time, the familiar darkness felt different. This time, the darkness felt like a metaphor for his life, a symbol of his failure. He sat in the dark living room. His son, Leo, was trying to read a book. He was using the light from one small, shaky candle. In the kitchen, Mia was quiet. She was throwing out spoiled food. Again. The smell of sour milk filled the small apartment. For Ethan, it was the smell of defeat. This was the exact situation he had sacrificed everything to stop. And here it was. It was happening anyway. His strategy, his plan of hoarding cash, had been tested by real life, and it had failed completely. He could not stand it. He could not sit in that dark, sad room for one more minute. He mumbled something to Mia. "I need some air." He went out of his apartment and into the dark hallway. The hallway was completely black, except for one thing. A thin line of light was shining from under a neighbor's door. It was the door of Mrs. Carter, an older woman who lived on his floor. As Ethan watched, the door opened. A young man who lived in the building was standing there. He gave Mrs. Carter a few dollar bills. And Mrs. Carter gave him a small black object. The object was glowing with a bright, steady, clean light. It was a rechargeable lantern. Ethan froze. He just stood there in the dark, watching. A few minutes later, another neighbor knocked on Mrs. Carter's door. The same thing happened. The neighbor gave her a few dollars. She gave the neighbor a lantern. A few dollars for a few hours of bright, clean light. Ethan stood in that dark hallway for almost half an hour. He watched a quiet, steady line of people come to Mrs. Carter's door. She was not just surviving the blackout, she was not hiding from it. She had turned the problem of the blackout into a small business. This idea hit Ethan like a lightning strike in his mind. The idea was so simple, it was so obvious. How did he not see this before? He had been so focused on his one big, expensive solution, the generator. He had completely missed the small, smart opportunities all around him. Mrs. Carter did not save thousands of dollars. She probably spent $50 or maybe $100. She bought a few lanterns. And now during a blackout, she had light for herself. And she was making money from the problem itself. Her money was not sitting in an envelope. Her money was not scared or hiding. Her money was working. Ethan went back inside his dark apartment. The smell of the cheap candle was strong and unpleasant. Leo had given up trying to read his book. It was too dark. Mia was sitting at the kitchen table. Her face was in her hands. Ethan saw this scene. He saw the reality of his failure. And at the same time, he saw the glimmer of Mrs. Carter's simple success. These two pictures together broke something open inside of him. He sat down at the table across from Mia. "I was wrong," he said. The words felt heavy and difficult in his mouth. But he knew he had to say them. Mia looked up at him. Her eyes were careful. She was not sure what to expect. "Everything I have been doing," he continued. His voice was quiet, but it was also urgent. There was a new energy in it. The envelope, skipping meals, all of it. It was all wrong. "I thought I was protecting us. I really did. I thought if I just saved enough cash, we would be safe. But one normal, crummy week of life. It took it all. It's gone, Mia." He told her everything. He confessed his obsession, his constant anxiety, his deep feeling of failure. He did not make any excuses for his behavior. Then he told her about Mrs. Carter. He told her about the simple, brilliant idea he saw in the hallway. "She's not hiding from the blackouts, Mia," he said. And for the first time in a very long time, there was a spark of excitement in his voice. "She's using them. She is turning a problem into an opportunity. She took a small amount of money. She bought a tool, a simple tool. And now that tool is making money for her. Her money is active. It's not passive." Mia listened to him. Slowly, her careful expression started to melt away. She saw a little piece of the old Ethan, the man she fell in love with, the problem solver, the man who was not a ghost haunted by future bills. "So what are you saying?" she asked him softly. "I'm saying we need to stop trying to save our way to safety. It doesn't work. We need to build our way there. I don't know exactly how we will do it, but we have to start. We start small. We start with one tool, just like Mrs. Carter and her lanterns." He reached his hand across the small table. He took her hand in his. His hand was the hand of a man who had finally seen a light in the darkness. Not the light from a huge, expensive fortress, but the light from a single, steady flame of hope. There, in the wavering candlelight of their dark apartment, they made a new plan. It was not a budget based on subtraction. It was not a plan about what to take away. It was a plan of creation, a plan about what they could build together. Section 4. Planning's the first seed. The next morning, the feeling in the apartment was completely different. The heavy weight of sadness and despair was gone. In its place was a nervous, excited energy, the energy of a new beginning. Ethan's first action was not to look for things to cut. It was not to find new ways to save. His first action was to look for ways to earn. The generator was a forgotten dream. A bad dream. The new dream was much smaller. And because it was smaller, it was much more powerful. The new dream was one single rechargeable lantern. Ethan and Mia sat down together at the kitchen table. They looked at what was left of their money. Less than $20. It was a sad, small amount. It was not enough to start. They needed a seed. A seed is what you plant to grow something new. They had a long, difficult, and humbling conversation. They decided to sell the one thing they owned that had some value. It was a gold locket. It belonged to Mia's grandmother. It was a very painful choice. It was a sacrifice of something with emotional value for a chance at survival. But this sacrifice felt different from Ethan's other sacrifices. His old sacrifices were born from fear. They were about hiding and protecting. This new sacrifice was born from hope. It was an investment in a new beginning. They sold the locket at a small jewelry shop. They got $150 for it. To them, it felt like a fortune. It felt like $1,000,000. Ethan did not rush out to buy the first lanterns he saw. The new Ethan was smarter. He spent 2 full days doing research. He sat in the library and used the free computer. He read online reviews. He compared different brands of lanterns. He looked at their battery life. He looked at their brightness. He looked at their durability, which means how strong they are. His obsessive personality was still there. He still focused on details. But now he was not using that energy to worry. He was using it for market research. He was making a smart decision about his first piece of business equipment. Finally, he made a choice. He bought 5 high-quality LED lanterns. They were not the cheapest and not the most expensive. The 5 lanterns cost $120. He spent another $10 on a special power strip. It had many USB ports to charge all the lanterns at once. He had $20 left. This was his entire net worth. Everything he owned in the world was $20. The next problem was power. To charge the lanterns, he needed electricity. But what if a blackout lasted for many days? He needed a partner. He thought of a man named Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson owned the local barbershop. The barbershop was on a different street. That street had a more reliable power grid. They had fewer blackouts. Walking into that barbershop was one of the hardest things Ethan had ever done. He felt like a fake, a fraud. He was not a businessman. He was a night guard with a crazy idea. Ethan found Mr. Henderson cutting a customer's hair. Ethan's voice was shaking a little bit. He explained his idea, his proposal. During the next blackout, could he please use an electrical outlet in the back of the barber shop? In return for using the electricity. Mr. Henderson would get to use 1 lantern for free during the outage. And Mr. Henderson would get a 20% cut of all the money Ethan made from renting the lanterns. Mr. Henderson stopped cutting hair. He put down his scissors. He looked at Ethan. Then he looked at the new box of lanterns in Ethan's hands. Ethan's heart was pounding in his chest. He was sure Mr. Henderson was going to laugh at him. He expected to be told to leave the shop. "You know," Mr. Henderson said finally, "last week during the blackout, I had to close my shop 2 hours early. It was too dark to see if a man's sideburns are even. You're telling me you will keep my lights on, and you will give me a piece of the money?" He paused for a moment. "Son, you've got a deal." A huge feeling of relief washed over Ethan. He felt light. He felt happy. He had his first strategic partner. That night, there was no calculator on the kitchen table. Instead, there was a brand new notebook. At the top of the first page, Mia wrote 2 words: Lantern Project. It was not just Ethan's idea anymore. It was a family business. They worked together to make a plan. They decided on a price: $5 to rent a lantern for the whole evening, and a $10 deposit, which you get back when you return the lantern. Their son Leo was given a very important job. He was the chief equipment officer. He very carefully cleaned and polished each new lantern. His face was serious. He understood this was important. Now they just had to wait. They had to wait for the dark. The dark came 3 nights later. The lights flickered, and then the apartment went black. But this time, Ethan was ready. He reached for one of his new lanterns and clicked it on. It filled the entire room with a clean, bright white light. It was the light of pure hope. Leo shouted with happiness, "Wow!" Ethan put the other 4 lanterns in a bag. "I'll be back," he said to Mia. He stepped out into the pitch-black hallway. He knocked on the first door. A mother with 2 small children answered the door. She looked tired and stressed. She was holding her phone, using its weak flashlight to see. "Hi," Ethan said. His voice was much steadier than he expected. "My name is Ethan. I live down the hall. I'm renting out these rechargeable lanterns. It's $5 for the whole evening." He held up one of the lit lanterns. The powerful, bright light cut through the woman's dark apartment. Her eyes got wide. She immediately said yes. Ethan went from door to door. Within 1 hour, all 4 of his lanterns were rented out. He had made $20. He had earned back all the money he had left in the world in just 60 minutes. He walked back to his apartment. He opened the door. It was bright inside. Leo was at the table, happily drawing a picture. Mia was sitting on the sofa, calmly reading a book. This scene, this peaceful, normal, happy scene, it was everything he ever wanted the generator to give him. And he did it. Not with thousands of dollars saved from fear. He did it with a small box of lanterns and a little bit of courage. He showed Mia the $20 in his hand. She smiled at him. It was a real smile, a genuine smile, a smile that reached her eyes. It was a smile he had not seen in a very, very long time. It was just one small seed. One seed planted in the dark. But for the first time in his life, Ethan felt like he was truly building something. Something that would last. I hope you are enjoying this story. I hope you are feeling the shift, the change in Ethan's heart. It is a story with a very powerful and important lesson. If you feel a connection to this story, if you have ever felt that fear of not enough, please take a gentle moment to subscribe to our podcast. We are all on a journey of learning English, and learning about life. Join our warm and friendly community, and let's continue to learn how to build a life, not just a bank account. Thank you. Now let's get back to Ethan's story. Section 5. Nurturing the growth. One night of success can be just luck, a fluke. 2 nights of success can be a coincidence, a pattern. But 3 nights of success, that is a business. The blackouts in the town continued. They happened just as often as before. But for Ethan and his family, they were not a source of fear anymore. They were opportunities. Ethan became a familiar person in his apartment building. He became a welcome sight in the dark hallways. People started calling him the Lantern Man. He learned the names of his customers. He learned about their families. He learned what they needed. He was not just renting out lights. He was providing something more. He was providing a feeling of normalcy, a feeling of security, a feeling of calm in the middle of a problem. The Lantern Project notebook started to fill up with numbers. And these numbers were happy numbers. At the end of the first month, they counted their profit. Profit is the money you make after you pay your costs. They had cleared over $200 in profit. The old Ethan would have taken this money and hidden it in the envelope. He would have hoarded it. But the new Ethan and Mia had a different plan. They reinvested the money. Reinvesting means you put your profit back into your business to make it grow. They also knew an important rule. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is a famous saying. It means it is not smart to depend on only one thing. It is important to have many different things. This is called diversification. So they did not just buy more lanterns. They bought 2 bigger, more powerful lanterns for people with larger apartments. And they bought a dozen small power banks. Power banks are small batteries for charging cell phones. They rented the power banks for $3 a night. This was a huge success. Of course, running a business is not always easy. There are always challenges. One night, there was a power surge. A power surge is when too much electricity comes through the wires. The surge fried their charging strip. It was broken, and it also damaged 3 of their lanterns. The old Ethan would have seen this as a disaster, a catastrophe. He would have panicked. But the new Ethan saw it differently. He saw it as a cost of doing business, a normal problem to be solved. He did not panic. He did not despair. In their notebook, they had created a special category: maintenance and repair. They had set aside $40 just for problems like this. Ethan took that $40. He went to the store and bought a new high-quality surge protector. This would prevent the problem from happening again. He also bought the new parts he needed for the broken lanterns. He spent the whole afternoon at the library. He watched online videos that taught him how to repair the lanterns. By the evening, all the lanterns were fixed and working perfectly. This was a very big moment for Ethan, a profound realization. His old strategy was a passive pile of cash. It was brittle. It was weak. Any expense, like a doctor's bill, was a pure loss. The money was just gone. But this new active business was different. It was resilient. Resilient means it is strong and can recover from problems. The money he earned from the working lanterns paid for the cost of fixing the broken ones. The system could heal itself. It was like a living thing, an ecosystem. It was not a dead thing, like money in a vault. As their profits grew, their dreams grew too. They realized they needed their own independent source of power. The ghost of the generator idea came back, but this time, it was a much smarter ghost. They did not want a loud, expensive, gasoline-guzzling machine. Their new goal was a small solar panel system. Solar panels create electricity from the power of the sun. It was a bigger investment. It cost nearly $600. But it would be enough to charge their whole inventory of lanterns and power banks. It would even be enough to run a few lights and a small refrigerator in their own apartment. It took them 3 more months of hard work. 3 more months of renting lanterns in the dark and carefully saving their profits. The day they installed the 2 sleek, dark panels on their small balcony was a day of huge victory. Ethan took a lantern. He plugged it into a special box called an inverter. The inverter was connected to the solar panels. He saw the little red charging light on the lantern blink on. In that moment, he felt a kind of pride and security that was completely new to him. It was a feeling he had never known before. This machine, this solar panel system, was not born from fear. It was born from smart thinking, from ingenuity. It did not consume expensive resources like gasoline. It harvested free energy from the sky. The solar panels changed everything. They now had energy independence. During blackouts, their home was an island of light in a sea of darkness. And the quiet, gentle hum of their own small refrigerator. A refrigerator keeping their food fresh and safe. That was the most beautiful and comforting sound in the whole world. The old, flat, empty brown envelope was still in a drawer. Ethan kept it there as a reminder. A reminder that true power does not come from hoarding money. It comes from putting that money to work. Section 6. The true meaning of wealth. 1 year has passed. 1 year since Ethan sold Mia's grandmother's locket. Another town-wide blackout hit their neighborhood. The whole street was dark. But inside Ethan's apartment, life was completely normal. Life went on. A bright lantern lit the living room. Leo was on the floor, happily building a tower with his blocks. Another lantern glowed in the kitchen. Mia was there, preparing dinner. Soft music was playing from a small, battery-powered speaker. The apartment was not filled with fear or stress. There was only peace. Ethan was not rushing out the door with a bag of lanterns. His business had grown. He now had a small network of building captains. These were other tenants, other neighbors in his building. They managed the lantern rentals on their own floors. In return, they got a share of the profits. Ethan's job had changed. He was no longer the salesman. He was the manager of a small community power company. He stood by the window of his apartment. He looked out at the darkened street below. He could see the weak, flickering light of candles in some windows. And then he saw them. He saw small, steady, bright pools of white light. His lanterns. They were glowing in a dozen windows in his own building. And he could even see a few in the building across the street. He was not just lighting up his own home anymore. He was lighting up his community. Mia came and stood next to him at the window. She handed him a cup of hot tea. The tea was made with hot water from their electric kettle. Preceding sentence, the kettle was powered by the sun. "Look at that," she said softly. Ethan breathed. His voice was full of awe. "Look at that." He thought about the man he was just 1 year ago. That man believed that wealth was a number in an envelope. That man believed that security was a big, expensive machine he could not afford. That man was so afraid of losing the little he had that he never thought about what he could build. He had learned a very deep and powerful lesson. You cannot save your way to true security. Saving money is important. Yes, but the way he was saving. It was an act of fear. The real path to security was through building systems, building skills, building things that create value. Building is an act of hope. He walked over to the kitchen drawer. He pulled out the old, empty brown envelope. It did not make him feel sad anymore. It no longer represented his failure. Now, it was a symbol of his change. his transformation. He held the envelope in his hand. He turned to Mia. "You know," he said to her, "I used to think this envelope was a shield." But it wasn't a shield. It was a blindfold. A blindfold is something that covers your eyes so you cannot see. It kept me so focused on what I could lose, he said, that I could not see the opportunities that were right in front of me. True wealth was not the pile of cash he had lost. True wealth was the quiet hum of the inverter, turning sunlight into light for his son. True wealth was the notebook full of his neighbors' names. True wealth was the look of peace on Mia's face. True wealth was the knowledge that if a storm came, he had the skills and the resources to fix the damage. Security was not a static number in a bank account. Security was a dynamic, resilient system. He had stopped hoarding cash, and he had started investing in himself. He had started investing in his own ability to solve problems. Section 7. The lesson applied. From parable to practice. My friend, Ethan's story is a parable. A parable is a simple story that teaches a big, important lesson. And the lesson from this story is about a truth that many of us get wrong about money. We are taught that saving is the best thing you can do. And yes, having an emergency fund is very important. It is wise. But there is a dark side to saving. There is a problem when your saving is only driven by fear. Ethan made a big shift, a big change. He moved from a mindset of fear-based hoarding to a mindset of active building. Let's talk about these two ideas. Let's look at the fear-based hoarding or model first. This was Ethan at the beginning of our story. The mindset here is fear. Your main motivation is anxiety. You are always worried. Every dollar you save is like a small sandbag. You are building a wall to stop a flood. But you live in constant terror that the water will rise higher than your wall. This kind of financial stress is very bad for you. It leads to real mental and physical health problems, like the insomnia and the headaches that Ethan experienced. The method of this model is hoarding. Hoarding means collecting and hiding things. The money is hidden away. It is a secret, and it is a source of private worry. This secrecy can be very damaging to your relationships. It creates stress and distance between you and the people you love, just like it did between Ethan and Mia. And the outcome of this model is brittleness. Brittle means it is hard, but it breaks very easily, like a thin piece of glass. A passive pile of cash that is just sitting there is very weak. It is vulnerable. It does not grow. It does not change. It does not adapt. One medical bill, one rent increase, one broken shoe can destroy years and years of sacrifice. It can leave you with nothing, just like it left Ethan. Now let's look at the other model, the active building model. This is the powerful lesson that Ethan learned. The mindset here is purpose. Your motivation is not fear. It is creation. You are not thinking about what you could lose. You are thinking about what you can create. You ask a very different question. You ask, what can this money do? How can this money work for me? It's about using your resources, even if they are very small, to build systems. systems that generate more resources. It's like planting a seed instead of just hiding the seed in a dark box. The method of this model is investment. Now, the word investment can sound big and scary. You might think of the stock market. And yes, that is one type of investment, but it can also be something much smaller and much more direct. Investment can mean buying a tool that helps you do a job. It can mean learning a new skill that makes you more valuable. It can mean starting a very small micro business. For Ethan, his first investment was buying 5 lanterns. For you, it could be anything. Maybe it's buying a better laptop so you can do freelance work online. Maybe it's paying for a certification course so you can get a promotion at your job. Maybe it's buying a good lawnmower so you can offer to cut grass for your neighbors. This method brings the family together. It creates shared goals. Just like the Lantern Project notebook did for Ethan, Mia, and Leo. And the outcome of this model is resilience. Resilience is the opposite of brittleness. It means you are strong, flexible, and you can recover from problems. An active system can grow. It can adapt to change. It can even repair itself. When Ethan's lanterns broke, the business he had built provided the money to fix them. An active approach creates new income streams, new ways for money to come to you. This is a much more powerful safety net than a static pile of cash. This approach builds more than just financial capital, which is money. It also builds human capital. Human capital is your skills, your network of friends and partners, and your confidence in yourself. So, how do you start? How do you become an active builder? You do not need a huge world-changing idea. You just need to find your lantern. Look at the problems around you in your daily life. What do people you know always complain about? What is a small inconvenience that you could solve for them? Maybe the people in your office building have no good, healthy options for lunch. Your lantern could be spending $100 on fresh ingredients and then making and selling healthy, delicious salads. Maybe the young families in your neighborhood can never find a reliable babysitter for a date night. Your lantern could be getting a babysitting certification and building a small, trusted group of clients. The most important thing is to start small. The goal is not to get rich tomorrow. The goal is to make your money start working for you. The goal is to change your money from a source of fear into a tool for creation. Ethan's story teaches us that true financial security is not a number. It is not an amount of money in your bank account. It is the resilience you build in your life. It is the skills you learn. It is the systems you create. And it is the value you provide to other people. Ethan saved every single penny. But one bad day of normal life took it all away. Why? Because his money was asleep. It was dormant. It was a sitting duck, waiting for a problem. It was only when he gave his money a job to do, when he turned it from an object of fear into a tool of creation, that he finally found the real stability and peace he was looking for. He stopped being a passive saver, and he started being an active builder. So the question I have for you today, my friend, is this. Is your money sitting in a secret place, paralyzed by fear? Or is it out in the world, working for you, building you a stronger, more resilient life? Please stop just hoarding your money. Stop letting fear be your financial advisor. Start small. Find one problem that you can solve. Buy one tool that can earn its own money. Take the first small, brave step from being a passive saver to being an active builder. This is a new way of thinking, and new ways of thinking take time to learn. Please be patient and kind with yourself. Just like when you are learning English, every small step forward is a victory. So, what's your lantern? What is one small idea that comes to your mind? It does not have to be perfect, just a small spark of an idea. Please share your idea in the comments below. Reading the ideas from other people in our community can inspire all of us. Your idea might be the spark that someone else needs to see. And if this story felt important to you, please share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Don't just survive, build. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. It was a gift to be with you. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep building a beautiful life for yourself. See you next time, my friend.